Good afternoon. Welcome to Sativa Segment, episode 19. My name is Richard Cheng. I'm the host with my co-host, Daulton O'Neill. Before we get started, this episode is fueled by Cholson M&A Advisory. It's a business brokerage M&A advisory firm here in Dallas, Texas. If you have a business to sell, you're looking to raise capital, feel free to give them a call. They can be contacted and found on LinkedIn. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with an individual I've known for a long time, and he's also my business partner. Welcome, Brian Hart.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
What's going on? Tell me about what we're going to talk about today.
Well, today we're going to talk about Vitam.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a little bit about Vitam and a little bit about Brian. Brian has developed a drink. Tell us about this drink, Brian.
Yeah, sure. So this drink is a hemp beverage. And what that is it's hemp-derived cannabinoids, being THC, CBD. And what I'm doing that is unique from, say, the hemp beverage space is I'm putting vitamins and minerals in it.
Okay. So, but before we dive too much into Vitam,
Sure.
Tell the audience a little bit about you. I've known you for a little bit, but you have a very interesting background. You have a mom that's from overseas, mm-hmm. but you grew up here. Tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Yeah, sure. So I was born in Germany, raised in the United States. My father was in the American military, and I had more of a German style upbringing. You tend to get the culture from your mother. In many ways, I can be a very German in my personality. So
tell us a little bit about that. I mean, what does that mean when you're very German?
Very direct, very punctual. You say what's on your mind.
You're not late a whole lot whenever we meet up.
No, I try to be on time. Usually,
Brian was the first one here.
So he showed up.
Brian was here before we were.
All right, so you and I are hosting the show, but our guest shows up before us.
We were on time though, so Brian was just early. It's good.
Well, you know the old saying: if you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late, and if you're late, you get left behind.
I think millennials were done with that. We said no, if we're on time, we're on time.
Yeah. Okay, so you're very German. He is very German.
He's very German. So German. He has all the short sayings. He knows it. We'll get into the German sayings in a little bit.
Pay attention to detail. Yeah.
And I will put him on the spot about this German saying I said to him one time. I think it's called Vinshen Dinshen. It's like if you're gonna do something, do it with full force or do it with full vigor, right? Or something.
Vinshen Dinshen.
There you go. Okay, so that's the extent of my German.
Brian's so German. While we're on this fact of Brian's so German, it's also I don't want to out him, but when he's meeting new just American AF people, I'll tell him he's German, like you're talking to a German right now. It's it helps in social settings too, because German people are direct. They'll tell you. The first time I was talking to Brian, he's looking straight at me. I'm like, whoa, bro. And it's no, that's normal here. I'm like, I actually prefer it now, No,
but it's interesting though, right? Because I think you bring a different perspective on mm-hmm. different things too. And I think it works to your benefit. And I remember some of the conversations we've had, mm-hmm. and over time I've got to know you as a person, and you do have a different approach about how you do business, about how you interact with people, what you owe people, what you don't owe people, and so it's been quite the experience and a very pleasant experience. So
thank you very much.
Yeah, but so you grew up here.
Yes.
And did you go to college here in Texas?
Yes, the University of Texas.
Okay.
But I did my master's in Germany. A master's degree in Germany is
you don't say
a little bit cheaper
There we go.
in the U.S.
Which college in Germany?
It was in Villingen-Schwenningen, Furtwangen Universität. It's in the Black Forest, so very German.
Very German. Very German.
So what's the one thing that you would say is probably that differentiates Americans from Germans the most on a day-to-day basis?
Well, I think Americans...
And keep in mind, you can say whatever you want here.
Yeah. Sure. I think Americans are very open, very much. And by the way, guys, I grew up in the U.S. I'm also open as well.
We're just so fascinated with it, Brian. It's fun.
Yeah, I think Americans are very open, but almost to the point where it can be difficult making a genuine connection in the sense where in the United States, I think it's very common where if somebody talks to you and you just hit it off that night, they act like you're your best friend. But then they say, I'll give you a phone call, and they never call you back. I think with German culture, people tend to be a little bit more reserved. but when you kind of cross this barrier, this threshold where you make a connection with someone, you make a connection.
Yeah.
So I think that might be, for me at least, that's something that comes to mind.
Okay. Well, I guess, on a personal level, it sounds like you got your education here, you grew up here, but tell us, as we transition into this conversation about Vitam, tell us about how you got into the cannabis industry. I know the story, but I want everyone else to hear.
Sure. Well, I think on paper, I had a successful life in the sense that I went to UT. I was a financial software consultant living in downtown Austin. I was on a plane every other week at least. I had a companion pass for whatever that means with Southwest. But I think often I would come home and, I'd enjoy cannabis, and I became a little bit more reflective in my life. Started asking some more of those bigger questions. What matters? Am I happy? Is this what I want? And so it came to the point where I said, no, I don't want to do this right now. So I decided to quit my job and travel the world for several years.
How long?
3.5 years.
So tell me about some of the places you went to.
Well, I started in Portugal and I went east. So I went to every continent except Antarctica. Happy to say that I've shared cannabis with people all around the world. I mean, I was in the streets of Shanghai late at night because it made sense doing it. But, smoking a joint with this Chinese lady, which, by the way, if we were caught for that, could easily go to jail for many years. And if the Chinese government's watching, this is an illusion or it's a metaphor.
Okay, so you took some time off. You traveled the world, but there was a part in your life where you grew cannabis in Colorado, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. So after traveling, I wrote my master's thesis using a neoclassical economics model to conduct an industrial analysis of the Colorado cannabis industry. What that allowed me to do was just understand different segments of the industry. And after I finished writing my thesis, I had to put it to practice. So I moved to Colorado and I grew and sold cannabis. Worked at 2 separate vertically integrated companies. I was a cultivation technician.
Is that what they call it?
Yeah, that is the office word for someone
for the farmer.
Yeah, and that was a great job. Very much in the sense that what you put into the plant, you get out. So if you show kindness, love, you care for this plant, you actually take care of it. You'll see the fruits of your labor, literally. So yeah, I enjoyed that very much, and it was a great fundamental basis to my knowledge of cannabis to really provide a practical application to it.
Okay, but were there any challenges with like your circle of friends or your family that said, "Hey, listen, Brian, you went to good school, you went to UT, you got out and started doing software engineering or software development, but now you're in something completely different." How did your friends and family take that?
Well, friends, they think it's cool. You're growing and selling weed. A lot of people think it's cool, and it is to a certain extent. I think for family, that was a little bit more of a surprise. Again, just because, I had a university education and, I could be at a lot of different companies, but I decided to do something that was, I'd say, a little bit different. So
yeah, you don't say.
Yeah, just a little bit. But, I very much believe in life that, you really have one shot at it. So you need to find what makes sense to you. And you need to pursue that because, I like to think that there's an afterlife, but we have time only here. So, make the most out of your life right now.
Yeah. What did you learn growing cannabis in Colorado? And because the way you're describing it, it sounds like it was still at the early stages of its regulatory framework.
Yeah.
Right?
Which years were you technicianing?
So it wasn't too early. Not like the Wild Wild West days where there wasn't as much regulation, but I was growing cannabis in the year 2021. Okay. I was in the industry 2020, helping with some other things. I was selling in 2019, 2020. Actually, maybe I was growing cannabis in 2020.
Yeah, you can't remember.
Yeah, well, it's good stuff. It has an effect.
Okay, so it's because in Colorado they legalized cannabis in 2012.
Yes.
So it had time to mature and grow and evolve. And by the time you got into it, it had its own regulatory framework. What were some of the potential pitfalls that you saw in that market as you were learning to be a technician?
Well, I mean, there's always the conversation of whenever you have a market, it grows over a period of time, and then there's a period of saturation. So I think it's important to understand that, a market changes over time. So at the beginning, it may be one thing, but it can evolve to be something else. When I was growing cannabis, it was very much more of a saturated market, and then people are trying to go into their niches. So I think what was important is just understanding that there's a track record with how people grow cannabis, and there's specific ways to grow cannabis. And if you understand, do you focus more on quality or production of volume? There's different methods in growing cannabis as well.
Okay, so there is an art and a science to it. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay. You've grown cannabis, haven't you?
I mean, sparsely, a couple plants, here and there.
Let's not be coy here.
I've never been the guy to plant the weed or really roll the joint. I mean, I can stuff a cone now, but no. I mean, the plants. I mean, I've done like team effort with some plants, like where I'm not the head. I'm moving around too much to take care. I already got a dog to take care of. I'm not coming back. I'll be like, okay, the plant has to die. I got to be somewhere.
Daulton's a Renaissance man.
Yeah,
he's a man of many talents.
Pretty much. There we go. But you can drink it now. So the flower.
Yeah.
I mean, cultivation is like probably one of the most important. But it's.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Weird. I mean, cultivation's super important in the cannabis industry. I also find it to be one of the most challenging and the least profitable.
Most challenging and least profitable.
Yeah, and I always tell, because I get that question, like, where I want to get into this industry, where should I fall? I'm like, don't go into growing. Yeah, that's not where the money is.
You're like passionate about it, like genetic. You like being in there.
And if you're truly passionate about being a technician, such as Brian was, then there's an art and a science to it. But I mean, even with hemp, right? Yeah. We know that hemp grows 4 or 5 inches a day. It doesn't require a whole lot of nurturing. Yeah. But the amount of biomass that's on the open market, it's there's an excess of it, and you're not going to get the profit margins aren't really as healthy, in my opinion, as some other segments.
As much attention to detail. I mean, they're living things. They get sick, everything. You know this. I mean.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and to explain why it's not as profitable when you grow cannabis is because this is similar to, say, farmers growing corn. You have a product that is very similar. Now, of course, there's different cultivars that have different effects on an individual, and you have to look at, what the cannabinoid content is along with terpenes, flavonoids. However, it's still a mass-produced product, just like, for example, computers can be mass-produced. There's going to be a certain level. There's going to be a certain price. If you look at your standard economics, where supply and demand meets, that's where you have your equilibrium price. So there are ways to try and specialize and make the price higher or separate your cannabis out, but that's why it's so hard to have those strong margins, because it's a highly commoditized product, so to say.
Yeah, yeah. And okay, so you grew for a while, but that's not how we met.
Nope.
When I met you, you were a consultant.
Yep.
So the evolution continues, right? So you were a technician. It evolved into you being a consultant in the cannabis industry.
Yes.
And in fact, I think we worked on something. Did we work on something together? Or you referred me a client out of state?
One of my clients I referred you to, actually. So I think if you were to look at it, I'm very passionate about cannabis. And even from the beginning, I had in mind that I'm going to start my own company. So everything I was doing at the very beginning was thinking, all right, how does this play into the company I will start one day? And consulting was a natural part of that as well, because when you get into consulting, you have a better understanding of the rules, the regulations. Sure. You work in different states. So it was just a natural progression in my career, so to say.
Did you find that experience to be pretty educational?
Incredibly. And, I had my own consulting company. I also worked for another consulting company as well called Can Advisors, and they're the longest standing cannabis consulting company in the space.
That's how we met, because even to this day, I still get contacted by Summer sometimes. Shout outs to Summer Thomas.
She's wonderful.
Yeah. But so you had it sounds like you had a wonderful experience at Can Advisors, and that grew into developing your own product.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I feel I am dangerous enough now, in the sense that I understand cannabis very well. I understand the regulatory framework, the culture behind it as well. And so it's saying, all right, what am I going to do that I can start my own business with. And there's a big trend, emerging trend with hemp beverages.
Yeah. So, in for the sake of the argument, or for the sake of this discussion, you'll hear me reference hemp beverage industry versus that's separate and distinct from the cannabis industry as a whole. But tell me how you came up with this idea, and tell me a little the name. It's called Vitam.
Yep. So the idea behind hemp beverages, I'm not the first to create it. But I have seen that it is a big emerging trend in the sense that people want legal cannabis in the United States. Well, federally, marijuana is still illegal. However, hemp is federally legal from the 2018 Farm Act. So people can legally enjoy cannabinoids by going to the hemp plant. So the thought process really was, okay, there's hemp beverages that are coming out. I had a great conversation with someone actually in one of the conferences I was at. We discussed hemp beverages, and I thought, oh, this makes sense. And I thought, oh, maybe I'll try this out later. And then I was thinking, okay, like any market, there's going to be a equilibrium price with supply and demand. But what's something I can do that specializes or makes it a little bit more unique? And for me, it goes back to values. It goes back to what I want to accomplish. And I want people to enjoy cannabis or hemp. And I want people to enjoy it in the healthiest manner possible. So for example, if you smoke cannabis, yes, cannabis has a lot of medicinal benefits, but you're still igniting something and putting it into your lungs. If you drink it, you forego that. Well, I was also thinking, well, if you're going to drink cannabis or drink a hemp beverage, you might as well get some nutritional benefits from it as well. So I thought, why not put vitamins and minerals from it?
Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't know about you, Dalton, but when he approached me about this, I had never heard of a hemp beverage that has vitamins in it.
I hadn't either.
Right?
At the very first time I had.
Yeah, and we all know Vitamin Water. It's a huge company.
I was calling him 50 Cent in here behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, Brian is.
I don't plan on getting shot.
Yeah, he's
the German 50 Cent.
That's right. But it's kind of an interesting concept that you're drinking a hemp beverage that just happens to also have, vitamin C or whatever vitamins you put in there. Tell us a little bit about the vitamins that you put in there. How do you went about choosing those particular vitamins?
Yeah, of course. Well, it's interesting. From traveling the world, there's a lot of things I've learned. One of the things is the American diet is terrible. And
like borderline criminal,
In some countries, it is criminal. But with that said, the average American doesn't have a whole lot of nutrition. Actually, the average American is very deficient in most of your vitamins. So when I had to say, okay, what can I do to provide some nutrition? I first looked up, well, what vitamins is the average American highly deficient in? And then I had to say, okay, well, what makes sense for production? Because you have water-soluble vitamins that have no problem mixing with water. Then you have vitamins that are more fat-soluble, and that makes it a little bit more difficult in the supply chain. So I also had to be practical in saying, okay, what vitamins do I put in there? So it was a combination of finding vitamins that the average American is very deficient in, as well as making sure that I can put that into a beverage that Americans can easily drink that doesn't taste poor as well.
Now, do the cost of vitamins vary from vitamin to vitamin? So, in other words, if I were to put, say, B6 in there, is it more expensive or less expensive than, say, vitamin C?
I would say it's negligible. And of course, there's slight differences in prices, but I wouldn't say it's a tremendous difference.
So that wasn't a driving force in which vitamins that you put in there?
Well, again, it was making sure that it works with the formulation. And also, again, the average American doesn't have, B5, B6, B3. They're very deficient in those vitamins, as well as minerals. When it comes to having something like magnesium, that's very low in the average American diet. So,
that I think it's what I love about that approach is that you're creating some social awareness and just some you're putting items in there that you're thinking, oh, well, what's lacking in the average American diet? And so I think that definitely gives you some awareness in terms of what for the greater good, right?
Well, absolutely. When you also just go into cannabis, I mean, cannabis has been around, hemp has been around ever since the dawn of mankind, so to say. It wasn't until, in the 30s that there was a bit of government propaganda that made cannabis look like it was an evil plant.
Yeah.
Which, surprise, our government lied to us. I'm sure that's a shocker for some people. So I say all of that because the roots of the cannabis industry, where cannabis made a charge back into mainstream society, was looking at medicinal marijuana. I mean, when you have a child that's having seizures and no pharmaceutical drugs are really helping, and then you give that child some cannabis oil, and I'm not talking about something that's psychoactive, and you see those seizures reduce, it's too much evidence to put away. So there's a really strong wellness component of marijuana, of cannabis. And for me, it's understanding what that culture is and saying, well, there's also wellness that we can bring to people through hemp beverages. And it's not just physical wellness. There's also another aspect of my business that I care a lot about when it comes to psychological wellness.
In what way? Elaborate on that a little bit more. What do you mean by how is this drink connected to psychological wellness?
With cannabis, you can connect with people. I can tell you that I traveled the world for 3.5 years, and there's people from many different cultures, many different backgrounds. But when you share cannabis with one another, it allows you to form a connection.
The community.
Yeah, very much. Well, I mean, and that was something that really struck me was in American society, we're very isolated. We go to work, we sit behind our laptop, we go home. Often, we get out of bed, go to our laptop, and go back to bed. And in American society, you don't see people spending time with each other. You don't see people spending time with their neighbors, with their family members.
That is very true.
Well, and it's becoming
isolated. Yeah.
Well, it's a tremendous issue. It's so much so that the Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, he came out with a report discussing that isolation is actually a predictor of death for a lot of Americans.
I better start doing more of these podcasts.
There we go. Yeah, we can do it. You're pretty social. You get around. enough.
I better double up on these podcasts so I'm not so isolated.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but it's very much a true thing in the sense that if you were to compare just from 2000 to now 2022, what the report was showing, the average person spends 20 hours less in a social environment. So that's 5 hours a week less with friends and family. Then you look at how the pandemic caused a lot of isolation. And there's people that still haven't come out from that. And, we as humans, we're not meant to be by ourselves. We're not meant to
we're alone. Social animals.
Very much so.
Brian, we're talking about those people that still wear masks inside the car. Is that who you were talking about?
No. I'm just referring to people in general.
That's called stupidity.
I know, you see it. I had to laugh.
Yeah, but no, I think it's just the point that too many people are, for lack of a better word, lonely. There's a lot of anxiety, there's depression, and a lot of these issues would be reduced if we just had more human contact. Instead of getting our dopamine from online with social media, where we get a like and we think, oh, this is great. Real dopamine is, touching a person.
Here we go.
There you go. Now they're getting all touchy.
Or when you put your foot on the ground or something.
There you go. Thank you, man.
That's the German in them,
Yeah.
Americans are like, what are you doing?
Well, I mean, so your drink, do you feel like you can create a community with your drink in the sense that we can sit around a campfire and drink Vitam?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. I'll say this. You don't need my drink to have community.
Sure.
You don't. One thing I've learned, though, from traveling the world is the way you form relationships with people is through eating and drinking together. And often, because with Vitam, you will have more of a relaxing effect. You'll be a little bit more comfortable, more calmer. It's also easier to connect with people. So really the vision I have is people to enjoy this beverage, connect with each other, form community with each other. Invite your neighbors over, for an evening and say, hey, let's have a drink. If you have kids, your kids can play in front of us. We're not smoking in front of them. We can just share this drink, enjoy ourselves, have a good time.
I had a dice game the other night with some THC drinks, Liar's Dice. We all drank some THC drinks. So it was good. And the dosing's great here. I'll say, the packaging, the dosing, 2.5 milligram THC, that's good, because it's you don't get too much going on at one time.
Sure.
And then also, going back to the government lies to us, the water, everything, the food system, it's all messed up. Of course, we don't get our vitamins. It's like it's not profitable for that to happen. So I appreciate you trying to push the wellness, get it to the forefront, because really it's a necessity thing, just like you mentioned. If it's more convenient for us to get our nutrients and things like this, we'll heal more people, I think.
That's the hope. And I believe strongly in that as well. And it gets me excited to think that 5 years from now, however many years from now, I'll see a group of people, several groups of people sharing this beverage and just laughing, having fun. And let's not forget, this is a hemp beverage. So, not only is this product something good for getting your nutrition, but literally this product makes food taste better. It makes music sound better. If you jump into a shower, the shower feels better.
It says recreational seltzer right here. And your showers are pretty recreational if you do it right.
Sure. Well, and there's some other recreational activities that hemp helps as well, or cannabis helps as well.
Yeah.
But I'll let people figure that one out.
So was it difficult coming up with the formulation? Tell me a little bit about that process and who you had help you with that.
Sure. Well, I need to know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. If it comes to creating a beverage formulation, I have no experience, so I'm not going to do it on my own. So this is where, I work with industry organizations, and I have a benefit from my cannabis experience, my marijuana experience, knowing a lot of industry groups. I was able to get connected with an outstanding formulator. We spent, probably 6 months altogether, going back and forth, testing the formulation, making revisions. And she was wonderful because I was able to tell her, this is the vision I have. I want people to live a healthier lifestyle. I want people to enjoy themselves more. We came up with a great product, and I'm very proud of it.
And of course, the Vitam Group, you're licensed in the great state of Texas under the consumable hemp products licensing program.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that process, and was that difficult to get?
It always takes time. It's important because I'll state, cannabis should be regulated, at least right now. I do see in the future we don't need as much, but at the beginning we should have regulation. And whenever you work with a regulatory body, you have to jump through some loops. It wasn't incredibly difficult, but there's just a lot of little things. And when you're running a business, having a few little things cause delays, which can cause a weeks or a few months, that can be frustrating. But it's not incredibly difficult. You just have to be on top of your paperwork and on top of what your process is to get this license.
Yeah. And sometimes that can be, that can be pretty tiresome, right? To go through the process and responding to the regulatory bodies, and if you need to make amendments, that can be process itself.
Sure. Well, and also it's just, for example, if you're storing cannabis, you need to, with the consumable hemp product license, if you're storing a hemp product, you need to have paperwork from the people that own the building, saying that it's allowable to have your hemp product.
And you can't use that you can't use your home.
No, you can't use your home. You have to just be a little reliant on other people. And again, it takes time, but really my general philosophy is you can solve any problem with time.
Do you advise other companies who are also starting their hemp business, if they have a home, where is a place that's appropriate for you to store your inventory at?
Well, the best bet is going to be a third-party logistics center. And you also will have to find a third-party logistics center that's comfortable with having hemp products. Not every company is comfortable with that. Originally I was thinking about, I could save a little bit of money and I could go to one of those secure storage facilities. I talked to a few and they're just like, no, we're not doing this.
Is that a pretty expensive process with the third-party logistics company?
Yeah. Well, it depends what expensive is. But, you can easily pay $1,000 a month, depending on what 3PL you use. But that's when it comes to storing the product as well. So it's a part of your business plan. $1,000 a month can be expensive for some folks. It can be pretty cheap for others, depending on the volume of product that you're going to be selling. Yeah.
So tell me about some of the challenges and the people that kind of facilitated the growth of your company from start until what it is today.
Sure. Well, the first challenge being, like I said, I haven't been in the beverage space before, the CPG space. So it's understanding this space and doing your research and learning as much as I can. Because of that, I was able to hire a coach, and this coach was outstanding. We still work together. He's helping me out tremendously, but he's able to help me avoid some of the common pitfalls.
Okay.
So wherever I have gaps in my knowledge or weakness, I make sure to find people who have that knowledge and surround myself with them.
Yeah.
So I think I heard this before where, in military terms, father was in the army, so that's how he met my mother in Germany. But in military terms, they say, a good general works with tactics and strategy. A brilliant general understands logistics. And so along with logistics, it's saying, okay, if I'm going to create this product, how I'm going to scale this product. The ingredients that I have, the supplier that I use, the co-packer I use, everything needs to fall in line to where you're able to produce a beverage and do it on time so it doesn't cost you any money or mistakes. So to answer your question, I would say there's, of course, several challenges. Whenever you're an entrepreneur, there's always something that you don't know. It's just taking the time to figure it out, working with people who have a strong skill set, strong knowledge to fill in those gaps.
Yeah. No, the beverage industry is a tough business, man.
Yeah.
It's because you're looking at weight of the beverage. So
that shit's heavy to carry around.
Shipping costs can't be cheap.
Shipping costs, yeah.
Yeah. So I know that when you and I have talked before, and I spoke with, and he'll remain nameless, right? I don't want to bring up his name, but he brought up several challenges for the hemp beverage space. Well, actually, I take that back. He just simply said beverage because he himself is in the beverage space, right? And so some of those challenges that he shared with me, and then subsequently me to you, did that ever discourage you, truthfully?
Oh, I mean, of course, whenever you come across a problem and it feels like that problem can delay you from getting to your dream or getting you to starting your business, of course, it can be frustrating, but you take the punch, you take the hit, you assess it, and you say, okay, how can I continue forward? How can I move better? Because the good news is there are some people where those problems would prevent them from getting in the industry. So that is less overall competition. So I think it's just being stubborn, also a German trait. But
trust me, it wasn't fun for me to tell you all that.
Oh well,
so, let's be honest, because I was a little bit disheartened too, and when I heard it, and I'm like, oh god, I got to share this with Brian, right? But I think it's great, and it's almost a necessity that you have some resilience in you, right? And
you need that.
And despite the challenges, you still push forward.
Yeah, no matter what, I'm committed to this. It's not just a business for me. I mean, I'm no different from anyone else. I want to make $1 million bucks. Right. But I think you could say existentially, a part of my spirit, my mindset is tied to this business. So, I'm not going to go so dramatic to say if this business dies, I die, but it's very much tied into what I want to accomplish, because I think you can become successful in business and also make your community just a little bit better, make your environment just a little bit better, help people become a little healthier psychologically as well as physically. So I want to do that.
So what's one thing that you find that's a little bit unique with the hemp beverage space that's separate from just cannabis overall?
Well, I mean, I would say the biggest thing being regulation. Having been a cannabis consultant and focusing specifically on marijuana, there's so many rules and regulations. Now, hemp, there are still rules and regulations, but it's just not as crippling. I mean, even when it comes to banking, while there can be challenges with getting a bank account with hemp, it's not as difficult as getting a bank account with marijuana. So I would say overall, rules, regulations, and again, the benefit being is you have a product that still has the same end effect, but it's just not as difficult to work with it.
So let's tie that question to banking then, or that topic to banking. What did you look for when you selected a bank that you chose to bank this business?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, somebody that would do business with me, and that cut down the number of banks tremendously. But also I would say it would be people who just, I'd say, want to see me succeed, that treats me well. I care about that very much in business, in the sense that, you need to surround yourself with people where you want the best for each other. You can grow together. And as you grow together, you both can be more profitable together. So, I'm actually proud to say it was First Citizens that I bank with.
Oh, great. Yeah.
I
have ties there.
So. Yeah. They're
rising tide floats all the boats, right?
Yeah, very much. So they're really wonderful.
You should put them on your your August
Roundup?
Yeah, your roundup.
Don't worry, First Citizens. We're calling you about the Texas Cannabis Roundup. It's coming. You hadn't got the email yet, but it's coming. It's going to be fun.
It's Dalton's big event every year.
Big event.
Oh yeah, I was there.
I'd say it's not a roundup. You were there.
Yeah,
you were
last
there.
year. It was great.
I think it's the largest cannabis entrepreneurship event in Texas. So
Yes.
we're going to see. And I think we're saying that. We had 306 people there last year. We're expecting like 600, 700 this year.
Very much. Well, I mean, to all those folks that are watching this episode, you should come to Roundup.
And then it segues into something perfect. I saw Brian a couple weeks ago in Deep Ellum running around getting signatures to decriminalize cannabis. And, I went up there to see it. It's, Austin and his crew, Texas Cannabis Collective in front of Deep Ellum, Chiba Hut. And so I go there to see Austin, say what's up, make an appearance, take some pictures. I start talking to Brian. Hey, it's nice to see you. Brian's like, Dalton, I can't really talk right now. I have to get like 50 signatures. And I'm like, bro, I'm talking to you. Like, I said, I got to leave here in a minute. I want to catch up with you. And he's like, no, I'm going. Like, very militant, we're going to achieve the mission.
That's the Germanic.
That's the Germanic. I was like, I don't get to see you all the time, bro. Like, and I'm like, no, but it was good. We got to catch up. And I'm using hyperbole here, but
Sure.
He was serious. He's like, we walked to a dispensary from Chiba Hut downtown, closer to like the club area, and we were just chopping it up. And Brian was like, guys, we really need to get going. Like, I need to get more signatures.
I didn't say we, I said I.
Okay, he did say I. Okay, that's true. Brian said I have to leave, and I'm like, it's time for us to leave too. It's time to go. You did say I.
Sure. Well, but it's just it's being a part of an organization, a part of a cause that is greater than your individual self. People should not go to jail for having marijuana. Period.
Absolutely.
So, I know there's people that come up to me and say, well, hey, if marijuana is legal, could that hurt your hemp beverage business? And, I would look at them and say, no, maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. I would adjust by then. But this is also about sticking true to what your values are. And
humanity.
Yeah. And as a society, we'll do better when fewer people are going to jail for something that the government has no say in what should happen with our bodies.
We like it. And then you see, I'm going to call them cannabros too, on legal developed states. They hate the hemp industry, Richard, and they're on LinkedIn. It's not right, this and that. And those are outlaws and renegades. And I'm like thinking, why do you guys want to be governed so hard? Like, I'm about to start posting memes out. I'm like, govern me harder, daddy. Because it's like all these guys from even reputable executives from these companies are like, anyway, there's some screenshots, exhibits we could look at. But it's just, you're totally right. Like, nobody belongs in jail for a plant. These people, before it was legal, we're saying the same thing we are, but now they have their markets. And I like that you'll adjust too, because people that try to corner them, like it's the South Park episode when they're trying to do the home grow thing. Sure. And they knock out all the people that want to do home grow. Richard, if you haven't seen the episode of South Park. No. So yeah, they start growing a farm and then they try to kill all the competition out and say, we're trying to make home grow illegal. And it's like he's working for one of the big firms that we all heard. Anyway, it's
that was a parody of what was actually happening in Colorado. There's a big.
You were there during that time, right?
Yeah. There's I won't name any names, but yeah, there was a big company that was interested in passing legislation that prevents home grow because, well, you get more money if people can't grow their own.
So those guys are assholes, Richard. Anybody that's against home grow, it's like, bro, who are you talking to? Like, who really? Seriously, get that. Like, we're from Texas. You're not going to talk to us like that.
Exactly. This is coming from the guy that's been doing home grow for the last 10 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we got
allegedly.
We got a craft batch farm,
So, as we wind down this episode, tell me about your foresight in the demographic that you're trying to target with this drink. I know you want to build up a community. Yep. I know that this is a startup venture. It's a fair statement for me to say that, right? But so you can't just ship the stuff out across country overnight.
Nope.
How are you going to target this particular drink and why the demographic that you're targeting? Sure.
Well, you start with a certain geographic area. For me, that's going to be the DFW area, as well as the Texas Triangle, as time permits.
Yeah.
And you just do a very good job at what you do, so you can expand out. Now, I would say my target demographic, it's people that want to have. I'd say it's people that want to enjoy their lives more. Now that applies to everybody. Yeah. But take, for example, we have a phrase called the loneliest generation. That's Generation Z. Why are they so lonely? Well, they spend so much time on social media. And it's never good to constantly compare yourself to the best of the best. For all these teenage girls that are looking at, the most beautiful women on Instagram, and for them to think, oh, I'm not as beautiful as her.
Or AI chicks that are, equally hot.
Yeah, well, even the really beautiful women are now going to have issues with those AI women.
Yeah, exactly. There's a hierarchy here in it.
Well,
leave it up to this guy to bring up the AI
It's
shit.
true. Well, I'm already thinking that. If I was
AI
like,
is,
you know,
well, there could be AI hemp, Dalton.
they're good. You're right. Yeah.
I think I'm insulated from that. Thank goodness.
But you make a good point.
it's there.
Yeah, very much.
And the depression's real. Like I see it. The people are.
It's an issue. And so, you can say that 25 to 35, that's also, the younger generation, they like to go out, have more fun. They have more of an expendable income. They don't have children to worry about. So I would say, yes, this is for anyone that wants to enjoy their life more. Another good segment would be men. Men, we don't really talk about our feelings as much. We're not likely to go and ask for help. Women are smarter than us in that aspect, where they have stronger social groupings. So there's actually been a lot of men I've talked to this product about who want to get out and enjoy life more. Mm-hmm. Maybe they just need an excuse. In America, you say, hey, let's grab a beer, meaning let's catch up. Well, let's grab a Vitam.
Yeah, let's
connect.
grab a Vitam. Yeah.
So,
my GI tract can't do all these beers. So I've been asking people if they don't have a non-alcoholic option. I look at them, I'm like, why not? Sure. And I'll go to my car and get a weed drink and bring it back to the people.
Your approach reminds me of Dads at Peace.
Okay.
So, and I told you about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole women are just naturally better at reaching out to their community and resources and harnessing that community support.
Yeah.
And as men, we're taught to keep how we feel, what we need to say in terms of a personal aspect, right? To ourselves, and to deal with it.
Very much.
So,
and it's just, you can connect with people through cannabis. Like I've had, just like alcohol, but you can get hungover with alcohol, et cetera, et cetera. But through cannabis, you can form these connections as well. So I just want people to connect with each other. I want men that work very hard or, have to do their job and then have all these expectations and then say, well, when was the last time I spent some time with a friend? I want them to spend more time with their friends. I want everyone to spend more time with their friends. And something that's a little bit interesting is, we need women. Women they are so important in our society for connecting us with one another. If you want to see what happens to society without women, look at prisons.
Oh, that's a good point.
So
you don't got to convince Richard and I women are good.
Sure.
I'll just play it.
Yeah,
Thanks,
women are great.
Yeah.
No. I wasn't going that direction, but was just saying that, women are great. Brought to you by
women's
Vitam.
prisons have dudes now.
Brought to you by the
that's
Sativa Segment.
Sativa Segment,
Go women.
We all,
So, but yeah, just back to my target demographic. It's people that want to enjoy their lives more. It's people that want to get out more, connect with each other, do so with a nutritional value to where the next day they wake up and they feel fine.
Yeah.
So it can, again, it's like you think about people drinking beer. Well, everyone drinks beer. This is what I envision in the future. Everyone will be drinking Vitam.
I'm thinking to the Denver, this will be great for skiers, snowboarders, like little vitamins, a pre-ski,
Oh, sure. I mean, professional sports athletes use cannabis as a recovery.
Yeah.
So this is going to be very popular with a lot of professional athletes or athletes in general.
Just house a couple of these on the mountain. You'll be good. Carry them too.
So have you looked at distribution, Brian, at all?
Oh, yeah.
And so what does that look like for you?
Well, you have to work with distribution, there's two ways you can go.
Okay.
At first, like myself, it'd be starting small. I'd be self-distributing. I'd have some retail accounts. I'd bring them the beverages. I could also go through a third-party logistics center. Depends on what makes sense. Now, as you grow with the beverage business, you make money through volume and you work with distributors. Now, what's encouraging is distributors are more and more making hemp beverages. They're picking that up more and more. For example, Silver Eagle, they have a recent deal in the Texas area with a hemp beverage company. There's also another larger national organization that deals with hemp beverages. I won't name any names because I'm in good talks with them, and I plan to work with them in the future. And I don't want my competition knowing. But with that said, you're seeing more and more distributors. It's becoming more and more common. Actually, 2 weeks ago, Total Wine started stocking THC beverages.
It's big time.
Yeah, it's
about all that.
Yeah.
You're acting surprised. We're like, what? I'm like, dude, you've been.
I'm just trying to remain.
You're playing the part. Yeah.
I'm just trying to remain neutral here.
Yeah, we're here.
So
and Specs, right?
Oh yeah,
Specs has the Pomelos or something.
I don't believe it's that. I believe it's another hemp beverage brand.
Yeah, there's a
that
Delta 8
focuses
one
on
too.
D8.
Yeah, it was interesting.
So
Total Wine, Specs. You mentioned a big distributor down there. I mean,
oh yeah. So
there's options.
It's growing, absolutely. I mean, this industry is only growing. And you know what I say with other hemp beverages. I mean, I talk to some of these other owners. It's not something where it's cutthroat. Well, you never know with some folks, but it's not where it's very cutthroat because it's, hey, listen, this is a huge industry that's coming up. You know, it's like you go up to somebody and say, hey, you know, what's the next beer industry? Well, this is it. So it's more of self-policing and saying, okay, if we're going to do this, all of us, let's at least have some standards. Let's at least conduct ourselves in a proper way. So one, I mean, just logically, it's bad business to have a bad product do the wrong thing. But two, you know, we don't want the government to say, look, see these guys that are coming up with these products and, you know, they're having these harmful, let's say the hemp wasn't grown right and it wasn't tested for.
Yeah.
I know there's standards in place in Texas, but it's not hard to get around it's not hard to get around some standards.
Yeah. So you want to make like the OPEC of beverages and just stand up to the government for a final stand, or
well,
what?
that is oligopolistic competition, and oligopolistic competition breeds collusion, and collusion is illegal.
Okay.
So I would not do anything illegal. But it's just something where, you know, just like any trade organization, you have a set of standards that you abide by.
You've been well advised legally.
Well, I have an outstanding attorney.
So let's wrap up here. I mean, what are your plans in the next, say, 2 to 3 years, right? What is the outlook for Vitam? And if you had a crystal ball today, what would you say that would be?
Well, I'd say the outlook is good. The next 2 to 3 years, I see Vitam being all over Texas, the major cities. I wouldn't be surprised if I see it in other states as well. You know, going back to the statement or the comment I made about, you know, a good general and a brilliant general, it's all about resources. So there's a certain way I can grow this company. Depending on the resources I have, I'd be able to grow it very quickly, or I can grow it more organically. Mm-hmm. So regardless of the route I'm going to pursue, I feel great about the possibilities and the probabilities. I mean, this is only going to be a growing space in the industry. More and more people are becoming more and more aware of what hemp beverages are.
For sure.
I get actually sassy if they don't have a non-alcoholic alternative. I'm like, what are you doing? I go out to my car and get whatever weed drink I have in the car at the time and say, where's your manager? And it's just like then I get their number. And for certain clients like Vitam and other people, I'm getting some key accounts. Are you studying the alcohol industry? Because you brought it up. It mimics the alcohol industry. Consolidation of alcohol industry was like 90 years to like 4 or 5 companies. I heard somebody at a conference say this could be like half the time. You know, you could see consolidation in the hemp beverage deal. Like maybe it's consolidated like 10, 15 years from now. Who knows? Are you?
So this goes back to my master's thesis, understanding imperfect competition, moving to oligopolistic competition and then monopolistic competition through market share concentration. And it's standard in any industry growing that you're going to have multiple players, multiple entrants into the industry, and the less efficient players, they tend to go out of business, and there's market consolidation. So
yeah, that's with any industry, though.
With any industry.
I mean, so for example, I represent a lot of home healthcare agencies, and there's like 4,500 statewide, and there's just so many. And at some point, you're looking at consolidation. So no different than what you're talking about. There's only so many good players in the game.
Sure.
Right, and the ones who are not playing well, or who are just simply not doing it more effectively or more efficiently, they either die off or they get acquired.
Yeah, very much so. But, you know, I like to think similar to, you know, the inspiration from vitamin water. This is a new industry. You can jump into it and you can grow it. And I expect Vitam to be a very popular, very large company.
Yeah. All right, Fitty.
German Fitty right here.
Yeah, German Fitty.
We wear lederhosen in the streets and sell beverages.
Well, hey, Brian, thank you for making the time to come on the Sativa Segment show. I think you're onto something. Orange lemon, not my favorite, but I have full faith in you that
You're a
you're
more blood
going
honey
to
guy.
come up with new flavors
more
too.
SKUs.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure when you try it, you're still going to enjoy it, Richard.
No, I actually have. I have no doubt that it's actually going to be good.
I think we can probably shotgun a couple of these at the roundup. or play a little Vitam Pong as we're working on.
There you go.
I got some THC Pong games coming out maybe. So
Yeah, it's just a lot of work even coming up with one formulation if you think about it, right? I mean, as time moves on, this company is going to grow in its flavors and its formulation. You're probably going to change up the different cannabinoid formulation at some point, right? So I have, I see nothing but good things for you.
Thank you.
Pretty strong Vitam.
That's right.
Pretty strong.
That's right.
Vitam by Brian.
Hey man, do me a favor. Make a mango or peach flavor.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. If you twist my arm.
Mango peach.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite unsweet teas right there. I'm with you.
All right, Brian. Well, thank you so much. And thanks to Daulton for being here. And we'll be in touch soon.
Cheers.
Really a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Peace.
Thanks.